Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on Introduction to Financial Literacy or Financial Wellness. My name is Andrea Jimenez. I'm the Global Connections Program Coordinator. And presenting for us today is Kelly Demand. She is the Director of WSU's Office of Academic Engagement College Affordability Programs and an accredited financial counselor. So Kelly, without further ado, I'm going to let you take it away. Also, I do want to mention we will be enabling live transcripts for this presentation. So if you want to show or hide subtitles, you can go ahead and click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you'll be able to control it from there.
Thank you for having me today, Andrea, and thank you all for being here. As I was telling her beforehand, I don't know that this presentation will take an entire hour, but I really do look for feedback and comments from you all. So feel free to speak up and at any time. It really kind of helps me keep moving things along to have you all engaged. So as Andrea said, this is titled Intro to Financial Literacy. You'll notice I have the word literacy crossed out and replaced with wellness. And the reason that I do that is because really what we're going to talk about today is why do we engage in our finances? Why do we care? And wellness more portrays the idea of it being a journey, something that's ongoing, this relationship that you're creating with your finances in order to keep moving forward and engaging in life. And so that's part of the reason why I like the word wellness. Along with that, literacy kind of implies this standardized set of knowledge that you're going to gain, when really it's just about your own individual personal journey and about engaging in the things that are important to you, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I kind of go in with a definition of that. So financial wellness, it really allows you to define your needs and empowers you to make your own choices that are specific to you based on your individual needs and priorities. So a little bit about me. My name is, as you guys know, I'm Kelly Demand. I do have my Master's of Arts in English. I did actually write my thesis on the rhetoric of financial education. So I'm really interested in the language that we use and the way that we talk to you all about money. And that's really the perspective that I take. Beyond that, I'm also an accredited financial counselor. And I've also put my contact information up here for you all. So beyond doing presentations and running programming, I also do provide financial counseling services for any and all WSU students that are interested in that. So if there's ever anything you want to talk about financially or just want to know where to get started, please feel free to reach out to me. I love meeting with students. I love doing the financial counseling piece. So we'll get into a little bit more on it later, but really my journey as a non-traditional first gen student is kind of what led me to where I'm at and to why I really care about this work. I really want to empower students to have the knowledge that I didn't have going to college, to be able to make decisions and engage in their finances in the best way possible. So why? Well, as you all know, and I'm sure if you don't know, you're learning, money is life. I know that being part of Global Campus, many of you may or may not be traditional students, but for traditional students, a lot of times coming to college is the first time that they really have to engage in any sort of finances. And so it's really important to understand that even though we want to say the world is not all about money, it takes money to live. It takes money to do things that you would maybe not even think about it being a financial decision. I was actually just having a talk with a student a couple days ago in my office, and they were talking about how they had to drop a class last spring. And they didn't realize that this was going to be a financial decision, but it did end up being a financial decision because it brought them down under full time. And then they had all those financial aid repercussions. So it's about realizing that money impacts many more aspects of our life than we may realize. And when we come to making these decisions, we need to realize that even decisions that may not seem financial could very well have these financial consequences. And that's really what I'm constantly talking to students about. And that kind of goes along with the whole adulting thing. As we all know, being an adult is expensive. You have, priorities and your bills and your debt, and just living day to day is expensive. Beyond that, my favorite part of financial wellness, my favorite thing about students is empowering them. I want you all to be able, when you have questions, to ask them, to understand your financial aid package, to understand the resources that are around you, and to know that it's okay to talk about finances, it's okay to talk about your financial situation, and it's okay to engage others in these conversations, to actually make sure that you are getting everything that you need and all the resources that are available to you. A lot of times it takes being a little bit pushy. It takes asking all these questions in order for you to really get all the tools and information that is available to you. And finally, freedom. You know, by having this relationship with our finances and really engaging and understanding what our money is doing for us and where all of it is going, we then have the freedom to focus on the other things that we want to in life. We have the freedom to save for things that are important to us, that type of thing. And I promise you, this might be a little bit murky now, but as we go on throughout this presentation, you all will start to understand how each of these things does play into your own financial journey. And like I said, if any of you have any questions, please just feel free to interrupt me. No need to raise hands. I get really excited talking about this and really passionate, so I may not see you if you raise your hands. So it's literally just unmute and speak up. So the first thing that I like to talk about when it comes to engaging with your finances is creating a relationship with your money. It's about, what does money mean to you? So I often talk to students, especially students really early in their academic career, about what is it that you want to do out of life? Do you know that the career that you want, does it match the goals that you have financially? For example, when I talk to a student who wants to be a teacher that really is not traditionally a high-paying job, but then they talk about wanting to vacation all the time and wanting nice cars and expensive homes, I'm asking that student, what does money mean to you? Are you, so it's really about like identifying what's important to you and what it's going to take to get there, and making sure that those two things align. It's also about how you feel about money. A lot of times when I do workshops, I ask everyone to share with me one word that reminds them of their finances. And the most common word that I get is stressed or overwhelmed. Two most common words that I get. And that's definitely understanding. Through most of my undergrad career, I was very stressed about money, very overwhelmed, didn't have a full understanding of my financial aid package or what it was going to mean afterwards. Now, when I say about money, when people ask me how I feel about money, I say it's a positive process. It's not perfect, but I've got this positive outlook on it now. And I recognize that it's a journey and a process. And even though I am still struggling with some of the repercussions of not having a relationship with my finances when I was an undergrad, I know that all of that makes me better in helping students navigate their financial journey. It's also about your interactions with money, and we're going to talk more about this throughout this presentation, but we all interact differently with money. Our behaviors, our family, our experiences, our community, all of those things play into our interactions with money. And what I like to preach the most is, you know, this relationship that you have with your finances is just like any other relationship that you engage in, whether it's a marriage or a parent-child relationship or a friendship. All of those take work, they take evolution, they take time. There's conflict, there's, you know, give and take. And all of those things are also apparent when it comes to navigating that money relationship. It's very personal, and it really does affect pretty much every aspect of your life. So in creating this personal relationship with money, there's, as I started to talk about, there's many things that play into this. Our values, we're going to talk a lot more about that. We actually got a fun activity coming up where we're going to see how our values relate to our finances. Our behaviors, as I've talked about, and we're going to talk about that more. Our goals, both long-term and short-term. Our priorities and our obligations. So like, what debt do we have? Do we have a mortgage or rent or things like that we have to pay for? Cultural background is huge when it comes to finances. And I've learned this a lot in working with students from diverse backgrounds. Access to loans, access to banks is not the same. And it's about recognizing your own cultural expectations when it comes to how you deal with money. And finally, that whole familial influence. So in my experience, students who had this relationship with their family where money was a taboo that you didn't talk about, generally they have a much harder time coming out of their shell and engaging in their finances now, because it's hard for them to overcome this taboo that has been so ingrained in them. So it's just about looking at all these things within yourself and seeing how they affect and are going to affect how you navigate that relationship with money. So what I have up here is a list of many values. And so I'm going to take a few minutes. I want each of you to look at this list, and I want you to find your top 3 values. I'm going to turn off my camera for about 2 minutes. I'm going to give you all 2 minutes to identify the 3 values from this list that you feel are most important to you. I see many of you putting your values into the chat, and this is really great. I'm going to read off some of them: health, independence, integrity. Someone else put the same thing: integrity, health, independence. So that's great. So someone who did share in chat or someone who didn't, do you want to speak up and tell me how, and pick one of your values and tell me how you think that relates to your finances?
I'll go ahead if I may.
Of course.
I chose balance for mine, and that it stuck out to me right away because when I started coming back to school outside of an adult work life, balance in my time and finances was a crucial first step in being able to tackle everything. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Does anyone else want to share?
Sure. Independence was a big one for me, and that has to do with a lot. It's like I want to be able to not be reliant on a job. So if something unforsaken happens, I'm still okay. I want to be able to retire when I am old enough to do that. I want to be able to take care of my family and friends. Like, I don't want money to be an issue.
That's great. Perfect. We have time for someone else to share if they'd like. I will share mine. So every single time that I give out this activity to do, I redo it because I'm kind of interested to see, have my values changed? It's sometimes a good idea to come back to this list and look at it again. But for the last 3 years, I've been getting the same values every time that I do this. And they are independence, family, and peace. And so with family, I will say, so I am a single mom of 3 very expensive teenagers. That plays a lot into my finances. With everything that it comes for planning, I am thinking about what is it that these expensive kids are going to need? What activities coming up? Am I making sure I'm putting the appropriate amount in savings for their college? All of those things. And the same thing with independence. I want to make sure that I really liked what you said about how you don't want to be reliant on a job. And I love the way that you thought about that, because I've never thought about it that way before. When I was thinking independence, I'm like, I don't want to rely on anyone else. So I want to be financially secure enough to where I don't ever have to worry about relying on anyone else. But you've given me something else to think about now. And I really, really like that because it kind of plays into the same thing, because when you're financially stable, then you really don't have to rely so much on that job paycheck to paycheck. So great answers. I love this. So usually what happens is students tell me, I didn't see that there was a relationship between what I value most in my life and how I manage my money. And this starts kind of getting you thinking along those lines. For example, if wealth is a value of yours, that's going to greatly impact your financial journey. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, making sure that your career goals, what you want to do with your life, also aligns with these values. If wealth is important to you, or material items, vacation, entertainment, you're probably going to want to consider what type of income that you're going to be bringing in to ensure that that is enough to get you the life that you want. Or maybe it's the opposite. You don't want your whole life to be your career. You want a pretty low-key job. You're very, very frugal. That's fine. Just making sure that what you want matches those values so that you have a compatible life and financial journey. So to go off that a little bit more, so you can I gave some more examples on how values shape financial wellness. And so you can see that perhaps if one of your values is family, I have many students that's one of their values. And many of them are sending back home money every single month. They're coming to the university, they're working, they're sending money back home. And it's not a burden or anything to them. It's them valuing their family, and it's part of their family life to make sure that that family back home is taken care of while they're here at school. Another one is tithing. Now, I will tell you, I am not really a religious person, so this one was a learning experience for me with talking to a student. When I was working with a student on creating a spending plan, and their tithing was in there. And I had to be like, why is this important? Well, if you're a spiritual or religious person, if you belong to a religious organization, tithing might be something that's really, really important to you, not something that you're ever willing to cut out. Growth, if growing and evolving yourself, whether it be intellectually or however else, you could think of that as maybe repaying those student loans as part of growth, getting yourself out of debt, more financially stable, or investing in those student loans in the first place so that you can get that education that you want to have the life that you want. So you can kind of see that some of these values may not seem to directly relate to finances, but I promise you, in a way, every value that you has will relate to your finances in one way or another. Okay. So we talked about values. Now I want to talk about behavior. So I'm really interested in behavioral finance. I'm really interested in the ways that we are and the way that we interact kind of shapes how we work with money. And there's so many different things. We've already talked about how your history and your background goes into this, but so do your emotions, your habits, your financial situation. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about resources later, but there's actually this behavioral assessment that you can take that will tell you what your financial personality is. For example, I myself have learned that I am spontaneous when it comes to spending. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily irresponsible with my money, but it means that I don't always plan. I have one of my coworkers who's exactly the opposite. This girl will not buy anything until she's written like 10 pro-con lists and come up with everything. She plans every single expense out. Now with us, that doesn't make me wrong or her wrong. That's just a difference in who we are as people. And then you use that behavior of yours to kind of help gauge how you're going to manage your finances. With me, I like to take an extra step, make sure I'm thinking things through. If it is a spontaneous purchase, I try to at least, I've gotten to the point where I reserve my spontaneity for things that actually are really important to that I really want. I kind of give myself these pre-pep talks to make sure that when I do spontaneously spend, it's not going to be a regret later. Also risk adverse and risk takers. Some people are way more willing to be risky with their finances. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's just who you are as an individual and recognizing that about yourself and how you choose to manage your finances. Now, my boss really hates when I share this story, but it's the perfect example. He actually was buying a house last year in the middle of COVID, and they were buying quite a bit bigger of a house than they'd had before. And he came to me and he said, Kelly, I don't know if this is a good investment. So we talked about it. And I mean, it seemed like a fine investment. I mean, it was, was getting a good deal on the house, all of that, but he was worried about the risk that he was taking. He was like, I just don't know if I want to put myself in more debt and those types of things. So I told him, I said, go take this behavioral assessment. And he laughed at me and he was like, I'm not going to learn anything from this behavioral assessment. And I said, I promise you, I know you think it sounds silly. Go spend the 15 minutes, take this behavioral assessment and find out what you learn about yourself. It worked. My boss took that behavioral assessment. He came back to me the next day and he was like, I've learned that I am a risk taker in all of my financial decisions. I did this assessment. I started self-reflecting and I've realized that I'm okay taking risks in my finances. And that really helped solidify his decision. Today, my boss is the owner of a much bigger, nicer house than he had before. Ultimately, I asked him, are you happy with your decision? Yes. However, I know some other individuals that would not have been okay with taking that risk. It wasn't that it was a bad risk, but it was that, you're doubling your mortgage, you're putting yourself in much more debt, all of these other things. And so it's about recognizing what your behaviors are, what you're comfortable with, and navigating and dictating these decisions. So, when you're identifying your behaviors associated with spending, I always like to tell people, focus on your strengths. Even if it's something that you think is not a strength, turn it into a strength. So for me, with my spontaneity, I always say, well, I don't miss out on sales. Things don't go out of stock because I'm spontaneous in my spending. And so there are some advantages to that. And so I'm going to see that as a strength. And then I'm going to prioritize based on those behaviors. I know that I am kind of in the middle when it comes to being a risk taker and risk adverse. I'm kind of somewhat in the middle. Some risks are okay with me, some risks are not. But I allow that to prioritize. Where am I comfortable taking risks in my financial situation? And where do I need to step back? And then we all have those areas of improvement. So yeah, I want you to focus on strengths. I want you to focus on all these areas that really help your financial situation. But maybe you're like me and you're incredibly disorganized. I try to find the pluses in that one. That one's a little bit harder, but I've created some action items for myself so that I can work on the disorganization. I put more things in my calendar. I actually keep physical paper bills, which nobody does anymore until they're paid. I do these things to keep my disorganization from negatively impacting my financial journey. And what I've learned is all of this kind of assists in shaping your own priorities and goals. Don't really think I need to reiterate on that. I think that when you recognize your behaviors, you recognize your values, you understand what's important to you in your finances, these priorities and goals are gonna come right back out, and you're gonna be able to start knowing what you want to work towards. So when we put that all together, we have to remember, it's really important to be aware of who we are and how it is relevant to our finances. Our own truths, values, and identities are just as important to shaping our financial skills and our financial journey. I'm constantly telling students and other professionals that standardized approaches don't work in personal finances. You can't give someone I couldn't give all of you a budget template and expect all of you to make that one budget template work for each one of your situations. That's something you have to figure out. What are you going to follow along the best? I could give you ideas. I could give you many different ways of budgeting, and you can come up with the way that's most effective for you, but really just a one size fits all does not work in your own financial journey. And so that kind of goes into what I want to talk about next, which is why do I start here? It's a financial journey. I call it that for a reason. It's because everything is constantly evolving and changing. Your situation, the skills you're learning. When I became an accredited financial counselor, I had to memorize all of the credit rules. And I will tell you, they've added more since then. Things are constantly changing in the credit world, in the mortgage world, in the investing world. So it's an evolution here. You got to constantly be up on this. And then as your relationship with money changes, as you gain more confidence, as you become more positive about your relationship, you're going to notice maybe now you found a new way to budget that's better for you, that better suits your needs, because remember, this is a journey. It is a relationship that you're going to keep investing in and you're going to keep working on. Lastly, the hardest thing for most students to grasp is that they can do this. I'm here to help, I'm here to guide, and I do give skills-based workshops, but really, once you understand everything that it goes into your financial relationship, you can go out there and get it yourself. You can advocate for yourself and speak up. Constantly telling my students, ask all the questions you want. You cannot ask too many questions about your finances. You should know your financial aid package inside and out. You should know exactly where all of your money is going, what it's doing for you. You should understand when you have fees associated on your debit card at certain places. It's speaking up, saying something, understanding, and knowing exactly where every piece of that is going. So I constantly have conversations with my colleagues, because everyone says to me, if you could teach one skill and only one skill to students for financial education, what would it be? Would it be budgeting? And I'm like, nope, it wouldn't be any individual skill at all. It wouldn't be budgeting or credit or financial aid. It would be self-advocacy, because I can sit here and talk to you about methods of budgeting all day. I could sit here and I could talk to you about credit all day. But if you are not going to engage in that relationship, if you are not going to go out there and get that information that's constantly changing, then teaching you these skills is not going to do anything. And that is exactly why I start these talks at this place, because from my own experience, I did not recognize that my relationship with my finances was going to be an ongoing process, that it was about advocacy, that it was about knowing that I can engage in this and I can do it. It might constantly be changing. I might not always have the answers, but there are people out there, there are resources out there that are available to help me navigate my financial world. So if I had only 1 hour and 1 hour ever to talk to you all, this is what it would be about. You can do it. You have the tools, you have the resources, you have the know-how. And I'm just here to guide you in learning where to find those resources, how to speak up, how it is to get what you want and need out of your financial situation, how to embrace your own individual truths and identities to engaging in your financial situation. Which also goes into why it's really hard. I will talk about skills. I'll be back in about a month to have a whole nother workshop that will be much more skill focused, but that's going to be after you have this talk. So you can come in there and you're going to hear me talk about spending plans and all the different ways that you can budget, all the different ideas. I'm just going to teach you all the fundamentals and the important things to remember, but you got to advocate for yourself and you got to do it for yourself. Is there any questions so far? We are only at half an hour. I can tell you what I got left is not going to take another 30 minutes.
I'll have a question, but I could probably save it till the end. I don't know if it'll be relevant towards the presentation or something that's still coming up.
Go ahead and ask.
Sure. So my biggest financial gap in knowledge is what to do when you actually have money. So I'm not asking for actual financial advice, but like, where do I start, right? Like, I don't know what a mutual fund is. I don't know what an IRA is. Do I first look up all these different options? Or, you know, because without your advice, I would just go to YouTube and type in, what do I do with my money? And then watch a video.
You know, YouTube can be great. So I'm not going to discount YouTube there. You might actually get some great information. And, you know, I still struggle with the same thing. And so I tell people, yeah, it's a good idea. You should know what an IRA is. You should know what a stock and a bond is. But if you want to get started and you want your money to work for you while you're figuring all that out, right? Because that is all going to take time. Maybe just learn about one. Like most simple thing to invest in generally is stocks. Go learn about stocks, what's important. Invest a little money in there while you're learning about the rest so that you're making informed decisions. What you don't want to do is do something too soon and end up not having your money be able to work for you. I would also like to, since you brought that up, that brings me to a great example of making sure that, you know, it's great when your money's working for you, when it's making you money, But when you invest all of your income and then something happens, sometimes it's not fast and easy to get that money back, right? So you want your money in these like high interest accounts, earning, doing all these things, but you want to make sure that you also have some set aside for that rainy day, for those emergencies. So I would say that's number one, making sure that you've got this 3 months of income in an account. And then after that, start looking into those investing options. And if you ever want to look into those more generally or learn more, email me. I'll spend hours talking to you about that. All right. Any other questions before we move on?
I was actually wondering if you were going to share a link to that behavioral assessment.
I am. We're going to start talking about resources next, and so I will tell you all how to get there.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm telling you all to go out and get it. And you know, you can advocate for yourself, you can figure this out for yourself. But now let me give you some resources here at WSU to help you do so. So as we mentioned earlier, I am the director of college affordability programs, and I'll talk to you about what all that is. One of the biggest things of that is Cougar Money Matters. Cougar Money Matters is the overarching financial ed initiative here at WSU. We got programs, we got financial assistance, we got financial education, pretty much everything financial related is at this one website, Cougar Money Matters. So that's a great place to start to go and learn more information. And with that is iGrad. So you all may not be aware, or you may, that we do have a financial education platform that is free to all WSU students, faculty, staff, and alumni. You got a WSU email, it is free to you. And it is amazing. There's so many courses and materials on here. This, Casey, is where you find that My Money personality is once you log into iGrad. And so once I actually finish up with this presentation, I'll just go ahead and share my screen again, and I will show you all, do a quick walk through iGrad so you know what you're looking for and how this platform can really help each and every one of you. So I went back too fast. So as I said, this is Cougar Money Matters and iGrad. I recommend that you check them out. Sign up for an iGrad account as soon as possible. And I will tell you all, in case you haven't heard, because I did see it on your social media, if you sign up this month, and I know that many of you are not in Pullman, and send me an email, I will send you a free Cougar beanie. So just a whole nother push there. So, but I do encourage you regardless to sign up for iGrad. It's amazing. For quite a few of my programs, it's a requirement for my students, and most of them are like, oh my gosh, Kelly, this is the greatest thing. I'm going to keep using it. I use iGrad for a lot of different things, which I'll show you when we do that walkthrough at the end here. So as I said, I'm the director of college affordability programs. Just kind of wanted to go over what that is. So we're basically programs that are here to support you students through financial education and direct financial support. So I have many programs under me. Investing Cougs. Has anyone here heard of it? Ooh, that means I need to do my job outreaching more. So Investing Cougs is a match savings program that I run. If any of you are interested, so students enter this program, they save $1,000 of their own money. We give them $4,000 once they complete some courses in iGrad and save that $1,000. So we match your savings at 400% to go towards tuition at WSU. So for you loan takers, this might be a good idea because it can really help bring down some of the debt you have, because when you save $1,000, pretty much one semester of tuition is going to be covered. And along the way, you just get some extra resources to help you navigate your finances. Beyond that, we have Crimson Community Grants, which will be back up in operation this spring. That is a, basically it's like an academic fund. We support students that are in financial crisis, but we support students with necessary educational supplies. So your computer breaks, you can't buy your books, you have past due tuition, that's what we're there for, Crimson Community Grants. Beyond that, we also have Washington State Opportunity Scholars. This is something that most students enter in high school. It's basically just a scholarship for STEM students. It's my newest program. I know the least about it. So, but most students enter in high school. And then I already talked to you all about Cougar Money Matters and iGrad. May not seem like the appropriate time to do this push, but really I think it is, because I've talked to you all about going out and getting it, advocating for yourself, and these programs are one way in which you can do that. Okay, lastly, here's our social media. So go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We constantly have posts on there. I will tell you all that we put scholarship alerts on there. We put iGrad, which I'm going to show you, has a monthly challenge. I've had 3 WSU students win now. You complete their challenge monthly, you can win a $1,000 gift card. Literally, Visa gift card can be spent anywhere. So really recommend it. So follow us, because you might miss out or have some great opportunity that will be shared through this. So when you log into iGrad, this is what you see here. And the nice part is that you can sign up, but you can also log in, and you can log in with your MyWSU credentials, which is super nice. So you don't have to create any new passwords or anything. So when you open iGrad, this is what you look like. It's very user-friendly. You can update it with pictures, kind of whatever's relevant to you. When you very first sign up, it asks you to complete a financial wellness checkup. And this is great, and I'll tell you why. Because it kind of individualizes the site for you based on how you answer those questions. So as you come down here and look at my site, you will see that the recommended things for me are talking about succeeding in the workplace, retirement, things like that, student loan debt, because iGrad knows that I was a student, I'm no longer a student, it knows I have significant debt, and it knows that I'm a professional. So it's going to offer me this content that is geared specifically towards where I'm at. iGrad has some awesome other features that I really want to point out to you all that I think will be really helpful. Once you log in and you do that that financial wellness checkup, it'll individualize things for you. Then you can go up here to tools. This is where all the cool stuff is. So this Your Money Personality, this is that behavioral analysis. Literally takes like 15 minutes to fill out. And it gives some great information back. That's kind of where it tells you what kind of spender you are, how your behaviors affect your finances. Really recommend that you all do it. I promise you will learn much more about yourself than you think. My other favorite thing on here is the student loan snapshot. Now, for those of you who are loan takers, this is really awesome. You can log into the student loan snapshot. You can pull your information out from the National Student Loan Database. And then right here on your iGrad page, right here on your iGrad page, you can actually see your student loans. I'm not ashamed. I'm removing the stigma. You all can see that I do actually owe almost $70,000 in debt. But it's right here. Every time I log into iGrad, I've got that staring me in the face. So no way to forget about it. I love that. And what's great is it'll make me redo everything. So I'm not actually going to hit this button, but when you hit this analyze loans, it's actually going to pop up with all your repayment options, how much it's going to cost, how long it'll take you to get your student loans paid off. Literally, this tool is awesome. So I recommend that those of you that have student loans engage in that. If you don't know how to get your student loans from the NSLDS or the National Student Loan Database, get a hold of me. It's what I'm here for. I'm more than happy to help you. Beyond that, some of the other things that students really like, where's that tools, is there is the budget. So you can actually keep a budget right here on iGrad if it's what is helpful for you. What's nice about this is that you can type in, your financial aid, your monthly expenses. You can tailor it specifically to yourself. You can change it at any time. And then over here, it's actually going to show you. Obviously, that's not right, but I'm constantly playing with this thing. It's going to show you what your monthly net is after your savings and your expenses. So this is one way to budget, is just by using the site. I'm old school. I use an Excel spreadsheet. So I tried using this for a while. Didn't really work for me. Lastly, there's these courses. So if there's any other topics you want to know more about, and I don't cover enough of it, you can go and take these courses on just about everything. Scholarships to creating a budget to credit, all amazing. So I can't really tell you enough about this site other than it has more than I've probably even realized. Thank you all, and you have a great night.